Hey everyone. Sorry about that. Let's try this. Should be fine now. Thanks for being patient. While we're waiting for a few people to show up, let's see if I can get this screen share going on here. Hey Jack. Thank you for the diamond. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that was fun last night. I always have fun on text trivia nights. He's hilarious. Oh, your tablet died? Hey Grizz, how are you? Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. This mute button on here is, I don't know. I don't like this setup, but just give me 1 second to see if I can try and figure out this screen share thing here. And we'll get started. Hey, Swamp Lover. Oh, my day's been fine, Grizz. Thanks for asking. How about yours? Hey, Woody. Miss Veronica, hello. Thanks for the ice creams, Grizz. Appreciate it. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see if that works. Hey, Jenny May. Hey, Tech. I know, right? Gris says, how? Yeah, congrats on winning the pedal. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's see. Horrible background, but that's all I had to choose from, pretty much. Just trying to figure out why it won't go full screen here. Okay, so we have the chat. What's this do? Well, what does this do? I don't know. Okay, so I was going to try and make it full screen, but I guess that's okay so that you guys can see the chat. That's cool. I'm still not sure what all the other ones do, but okay. So thanks everyone for being here. I know this isn't going to be fun trivia night like last night on Tech Ties live stream, which is super fun. Thank you, Tech, for doing that. You are hilarious. Hey, Gypsy Mom. I don't know why. Is it flashing on your guys' end? I don't know why it's doing that. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Not okay. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I don't know why it keeps disappearing. I just want it to stay on slideshow. Okay. I don't know why I won't stay. So anyways, I just wanted to put those up because they're super important for everything that I'm trying to show you guys with this case, this crazy, crazy, crazy case that keeps getting crazier even 2 years after the fact, which is, well, crazy. Yasika, oh my God, that sticker. That's funny. I'm always on YouTube now, and just yesterday I went to go grab a sticker to put into the chat, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm on YouTube. That sucks." I wish I could make one for DLive because I have like so many good ideas for them. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started so that way we don't get people complaining about me taking too long to start. And I know, shouldn't care what people think, just do your thing. And that's what I'm going to do. So I know all of you, or at least I think all of you know about the Watts case. There might be some new people in here due to the Netflix documentary and whatnot, but and I think for the most part, you guys on DLive, I think I've caught you up pretty much, but just in case, I just want to give just a quick synopsis of what the Watts case is about. So, August 13th, 2018, Christopher Watts murdered his pregnant wife and their two children. disposed of their bodies at an oil site leased by the company that he worked for, Anadarko. Only 2 days later, he confessed to killing his wife, Shanann, but then later confessed to killing his 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste. This was part of his plea deal in order to avoid the death penalty, and allegedly, he's serving multiple life sentences at Dodge Correctional in Wisconsin. And that's based off of the official narrative and MSM. Okay. So just wanted to refresh on that a little bit in case anybody forgot. Doubtful. And I know that if you guys have been following me for a while, you've more than likely seen my video that I did going over these red flags and these characteristics in these events. I also did it on DLive a while ago. I didn't have as many followers back then, so I know there's quite a few new followers that I have over there. And although I've already talked about these, I'm going to keep talking about them and until they are stuck in your guys' heads because they're super, super important. So I know I already have all these like checked off because I just took a screenshot from my video that I made. But if you need to, it's up to you. Get a piece of paper and a pencil or pen or Sharpie, which I love, by the way. I love Sharpies. I love all the colors. Or get your stylus or S Pen or whatever. Open up your notepad on your phone. And as we're going through these today, mark it down if that's the case for each one. And at the end of this live stream, if you personally have or agree with me and have marked all of these like I have, then you're more than likely dealing with one of these orchestrated events that we see often. These are the same characteristics, itinerary, whatever you want to call it, plan that they follow for all of these, for all of them. Now, granted, some other of these events might not have all of these red flags or characteristics. Simply because, you know, you're dealing with different size events or cases. And some are, you know, they're all different and they're all going to have certain characteristics that are going to cater specifically to that event. So, you know, just because this case has all these, the next one might not have all of them. It might only have a few of them. But again, these are essentially the same ones that they use and they fit for, you know, 99% of them. So these are like the general characteristics. So you might notice, you know, in the next, like in a future homicide case, you might see that it gains it's a high profile case and gains widespread media attention. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's an orchestrated event, but once you see that, keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled, and start looking for these other ones on the list. And then once you start to see the next one and the next one and the next one, and that's when you should start really paying attention and looking at it from a different perspective and think, well, wait a second. These are the red flags that Megan's been telling me about for 2 years. Try to push your, emotions aside. Don't let the whole tragic aspect of it get to you. And I know that might be difficult for a lot of people, but you have to do that. You have to push your emotions aside in order to be able to see these events for what they really are and not let them, control you with fear and emotions. So again, just because, there's one or two doesn't make it one of these events. But that's again when you should start looking for these other ones on the list. Because they're going to keep using these same tactics as long as it's working for them. They're not going to switch something up that's, working perfectly fine. Hey, Tiger Girl, glad you found my channel. It's very rare when people say that. I don't hear that very often. So it's nice. Hey, Paula. Hello, Selena. Welcome. Well, thank you for the ice creams, Reverend Bear and Jack. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's get into these. So again, yeah, if you guys can just remember them in your head, great. If not, write them down, because if you can say yes to all of these in this case, in this Watts case, with these characteristics, we're dealing with an orchestrated event, you guys. Because it's in the patterns. I've seen it in past events, and I'm seeing them in current events right now. I just haven't covered them. Because I just don't put out videos that quickly. I don't know how these other creators do it. It's crazy. But I pretty much do everything on my phone, and I use like 3 or 4 or 5 different applications, because some have certain things that others don't. So I just kind of combine them all together. So it just takes a lot of time. And then if you don't agree with me, I'd love to hear why for any of these. And then we can talk about it for sure. Yeah, Tech, his scoring system is kind of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but it works in the end. Oh, and if any of you on YouTube, if you guys are already on DLive, please check out Tech Ties live streams. He does current events. He does trivia once a month, the last Saturday of every month. Super fun. Great content. I will put his link in the chat. And you know, that's how it should be. Like, other channel creators should be supporting other channel creators, not like these certain channels, especially in the true crime community. I don't know how it is in other communities, but this whole competitive thing is just, it's ridiculous, especially when they're all saying or claiming that they're all trying to find the truth because they want justice for the victims, but yet they block other channel creators from coming into their chats, or put them in timeout or block them just for simply having a different opinion or for asking relevant questions to their guests. Okay, there's Tech Ties link. No, thanks for the donations, Tech. That's so nice of you. Appreciate it. And just so you guys know, on YouTube, if you hear me say thanks for the ice cream and diamonds and lemons, it's a DLive thing. So don't, I promise I'm not weird or anything. Well, I am weird, but not that weird to just talk about random ice cream donations. Hey, 1 Hour Dry Floors. Welcome. Oh, Jenny Mae's double chatting over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into these red flags, shall we? And again, I apologize if you guys have seen this. I know that it's repetitive, but once again, super important. I should just put a ticker at the bottom of the screen and just say, sorry, but I'm going to do what the mainstream media does to us with you guys with these red flags and these characteristics so that you guys remember them and to look out for these. And it can be in any event. It doesn't have to be in just a homicide case. Any current event, any pretty much tragic event, let's say that. And they can be small or really, really big. It doesn't matter. But these characteristics that they use seem to work out no matter what size they are. Okay, so the first red flag you're going to want to look out for, of course, as you can see, is the high profile case and it gains widespread media attention. You're also going to want to look for if all the, the mainstream media outlets, if they're all pushing the exact same narrative and nothing is different about any of them, if they're all exactly the same, you're going to want to look out for that. And the reason why, some of these events or cases, especially with the homicide cases, why some gain more attention than the others is for that reason, because of the mainstream media. Because the mainstream media outlets can get this information out quickly and to a lot of people in a short amount of time. So you know, when the mainstream media, when they're all pushing it into our brains, there's a reason for it, okay? And again, like I did not I had no idea that they did these kind of things with these still watching what I say. I didn't know they happened in these homicide cases, okay? So as I mentioned before, I was 100% fooled and believed it in the narrative immediately. I saw Chris Watts standing on his porch, you know, pleading for his family's safe return, and just like everyone else, or for the most part, the majority of people knew that he was lying or guilty of something. I just didn't know exactly the entirety of what he was lying about. I just simply thought that he was definitely guilty of killing his family. So I don't want everyone to think that it's just like, oh, you know, I just noticed it right away. No, I didn't. Or that I wasn't duped just like everyone else, because I was. I mean, it still took me, you know, a couple months after finding out about the case to really, really see what was going on. But once I did, everything made so much more sense. All the unanswered questions that everyone has, that everyone's trying to figure out, it all makes sense. Once you know what you're looking for. And I think since, you know, I didn't know that they happened in these homicide cases, these mainstream ones, I think that's why it did take a little bit longer. Simply because, not necessarily because I wasn't looking for it, because with these, you don't have to look for it, you just have to be aware of it. But if you're not, if you don't expect it, you know, why would you question it otherwise? But that's why it's so important that we do question everything that we're being told and everything we hear and everything we're shown. And, you know, stop believing that just because these higher authorities or whatever, whoever they think they are, and the mainstream media is telling us this, it doesn't make it true. Just because the mainstream media has the ability to gain, you know, information that we, you know, necessarily, you know, can't, or they have more information, it doesn't make it factual. Or just because law enforcement or the government is telling us this is what happened and that's what happened and that's it, it doesn't make it true either. So again, I was 100% duped. And yeah, it was like, oh, well, that's shitty. You know, I can't believe they would do something like this. Why would they? And it doesn't, it's not anything that anybody wants to admit to. Nobody wants to admit they've been duped. Nobody wants to admit that they've been lied to or made a fool of. But that's why I'm doing this. That's why I am going out of my comfort zone, doing these live streams, making videos, because I don't want people to be duped anymore. I don't want people to be lied to and to have people, you know, these tragic homicide cases and these other events are literally, they are very, they get people, certain people, very emotional, and it causes, for a lot of people, you know, stress in their lives. It really, really affects them. a lot more than others. Some people might hear about the case and say, oh, that's really, really sad and terrible and horrible. Who would do that to their family? Who would dump their girls and, kill their family and dump their 2 children in oil batteries? And yeah, they might be sad about it, but they move on and they continue with their lives, and that's it. But then you have the other people who are very affected by it. I've still to this day heard people saying that they're still crying 2 years later over this case. So there's, all different types of people that they're all going to be affected differently, but they're all going to be affected in one way or another. So to see people say that they're still crying over this case, and for these victims, and how it's still affecting their lives personally, it is terrible. But that's why they make these cases so tragic. Even though it seems unbelievable, people still believe it. Okay, so I just wanted to say that. Okay, so back to the first red flag. So Shanann was only missing for roughly 24 hours. And all of these mainstream media news outlets, you got your Denver, your whatever, you name it, HON, they were all covering this case like almost instantly. So you have to ask yourself, why, again, are there some murder cases and homicide cases? Because we know murder happens, okay? So I don't want anybody to say, oh, what are you trying to say, that everything's fabricated and murders don't exist? No, that's not what I'm saying. But why do they get more attention over others? One might argue and say, well, depending on how much money you have, if you put out a reward, if you're middle class, if you're rich, and maybe the other ones don't get attention because they're, poor, or maybe they were a drug dealer, whatever. But again, we know murders happen all the time. So why are there only these specific ones that seem to grab the focus of people more than others? But it helps when you have all these mainstream media outlets pushing that narrative out there as quickly as possible and to as many people as possible, like I said. So, I don't work for mainstream media, or I'm not a police officer, but it seems rather quickly to have all these news outlets just jumping at this case where this woman is only, and her children are only missing for barely 24 hours. The welfare check may not be as suspicious as I thought it was. Maybe they do, nowadays, if they're only missing 24 hours, and if you're dealing with children, maybe that's more important, so they will show up for the welfare check. But the fact that all these news outlets were just immediately at the Watts house for a woman who was only missing 24 hours, and who, and Chris admitted that they had gotten to an altercation or whatever, or an argument. How many times have a husband and wife probably gotten into an argument, and she went to her friend's house and didn't answer his phone call for 24 hours? I'm sure it happens all the time. So why would mainstream media news outlets rush over to the Watts house to interview this guy about his missing wife, who had just gotten to an argument with his wife because they're having marital troubles? Oh, Buddy says hello. But this is the reason, or one of the reasons why I believe this case did gain the amount of attention it did and how quickly it did. And that was a tactic that they used, was his sermon on the porch thing, pleading for the safe return of his family. And that's how they were able to get it out there to so many people. See what I'm saying? So in my opinion, I think that was actually a great strategy, even though I don't like to give them kudos points for anything. But I'm not going to lie and say it wasn't, because it was a good strategy, in my opinion. So if you have your pen and paper or your good memory, if you think that this case, the Watts case, gained widespread media attention, and we know it was high profile, so mark it down if you think that that's relevant in this case. And then we'll move on to the next one. Hey, Red Rooster. Speaking of Rooster, how are you? Okay, so a lot of times with these orchestrated events, you're going to notice how the narrative will eventually change. So once they push that same narrative, all the mainstream media outlets, once they keep pushing that, that's usually it. However, the psychological aspect of it, he does this every single time. Now there's a mockingbird outside my window. So I've got a rooster, a mockingbird, a woodpecker, what else? You name it. Okay, where was I? Sorry. Animals. Animals, rooster, story keeps changing. Okay. So even though they have the same narrative that they beat into our heads, even though these orchestrated events are usually planned years in advance, especially if they're the bigger ones or more intricate ones, mistakes are bound to happen. And they do happen. Especially leading up to, especially if it's like a live event where there's a crowd of people or whatever the case may be, you're going to get those mistakes that people make. It's just inevitable. So when that happens, they're going to change up the narrative a little bit or do whatever they can to get back on track and fix their mistakes. So like the shadows thing, right? Remember the shadows thing that came out? For instance, in the event that happened prior to the Watts case in 2017, specifically on October 1st, there was a discrepancy in the timeline, and there was an independent journalist that questioned the sheriff that was a part of that event because it didn't add up, because they made a mistake, and she called him out on it, and they didn't like that. And you won't see the mainstream media at these, news conferences asking those kinds of questions. Because any of the reporters in there they usually have to stick to some sort of, they're only allowed to ask certain questions, and they're only allowed to ask questions that the people running these things want them to ask. So the fact that this independent journalist went in there and just started shouting out about the discrepancy in the timeline was like a big no-no. They don't like to answer those kinds of questions, anything that, puts them on the spot or points out the inconsistencies in the narrative. Because if you'll notice that the mainstream media after this case, I mean, it's still going on and they still have all these, breaking news stories on social media and all this stuff happening, but you won't see mainstream media covering any of it because they already did their job. They already pushed the narrative into our heads for the first couple months. There's also discrepancy in the Watts case with Nicole Kessinger's search that she did for Shanann and Chris prior to the murders that we all know about. And if you aren't familiar with the case, the mistress on her alleged data dump from her mobile phone said that she had searched for Chris Watts and Shanann Watts in September of 2017, which was a year before the murders. So a lot of people made a big fuss about this, and I don't know exactly if that was something that was purposely meant there to confuse people or if it was just a mistake, like I said, that are bound to happen in these, that they didn't notice. And that's why Michael Rourke had to, at least address it, or because he didn't answer the questions that we had about it. But I think with the hype that everyone was making about it, about why is this mistress searching for these two people a year before the murders and there's, nothing else about it. And Michael Rourke does that, news conference and says, oh, this isn't a witch hunt and we don't know how. I can't explain why it says that in her data, but it's not wrong. It's correct. And that was it. It's like, okay, well, thanks for wasting our time because that told us absolutely nothing. So it's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do this conference and I'm going to address it because God forbid I make myself look bad, because that's all Michael Rourke cares about is how he looks. So if you try to, damage his credibility or anything like that, of course he's going to come out and try to fix that because all he cares about is his image. In my opinion. So he thinks if he comes out and does a news conference and he addresses it, that everything's going to be fine, even though he never answered the question at all. And that's just, two examples in two different cases of how things are going to go wrong. Another example is on the body cam footage, and I've mentioned this before. When Chris and Nicholas Atkinson, Nicole Atkinson's son, are upstairs, and Nicole Atkinson's downstairs, and Officer Coonrod is downstairs, Coonrod walks up the stairs, and you see Chris walk up to him with Shanann's phone in his hand and say, oh, we found the phone. And Coonrod just looks at him and goes, oh, well, shoot, or shit, or something. And then just keeps walking past Chris. A very, very weird interaction. You would think that finding this, the fact that this missing woman's phone magically appeared would be kind of a big deal to Officer Coonrod. Like, why didn't he say, oh, well, have you turned it on? Is it on? Is there any messages? Who called her? Can I see it? start asking questions about it. But no, he goes, oh, well, shit. And then he walks past Chris and then walks into the laundry room and then keeps doing his little tour of the house. Those are one of those things that I immediately noticed. It's like, okay, that was really strange. What's going on with that? And if you have those moments and, in these cases where you're like, okay, that's weird, it's probably because it is weird and it should be questioned, in my opinion. Yeah, Swamp Lover. There's two different accounts for the whole phone thing. So Nicole Atkinson, Shanann's friend, her son, Nicholas, with the ponytail and the body cam footage, in his interview, I believe he says that Chris found the phone or something. Correct me, someone in chat, if I'm wrong, but either way, there was two different accounts. It was either Chris found the phone and handed it to Coonrod, and then it was Nick found the phone and then, or something. Either way, that's another one of those things where it doesn't add up, the two stories. But why would an officer walk past the husband of this missing woman who had just found a phone and a piece of evidence that might potentially help find this woman who's, allegedly missing? Sounds like to me, so it sounds like someone fudged up their lines there or jumped the gun. There's also a point in the body cam footage where Coonrod keeps doing his tour of the house, pretending to look around, in my opinion. Nobody actually thoroughly looked through that house. If you'll notice, they just trickled in slowly, just kind of like looked around, walked, opened a closet door here. Like there was no sense of urgency anywhere to look for Shanann and the girls in that house. And again, yes, people react differently, but if that was my best friend, and if I was that worried about her, I probably would have broke a window or something and would have been there long before, and I wouldn't have waited for the officer to get there if I was that worried. I don't know until I'm in that situation. But the minute that, regardless if Coonrod can't go inside until Chris gives him permission, I would have been running past Chris or my friend's husband the minute he opened that garage door and through the house. Even if he tried to stop me, I would have been running through there if I was that worried about my friend, which they claimed, and she claims she was that worried about her. Like, try and stop me, but I'm going to go in there and see if my friend's okay because she wasn't feeling well last night and she's pregnant. So I need to make, and no one's answering and all her shit's inside. So I need to make sure that she's okay and those girls are okay. Because something's not right. But no, everyone just waits around, and then Chris is in there for a minute, goes upstairs and opens the door, and then all three of them just walk inside and then just start looking around like aimlessly, like I don't, just at a fly that's buzzing around above their head. I don't know. It's just, there was just no sense of urgency. Nobody yelled out their names. We can rule Chris out because obviously he's supposed to be the murderer husband. So of course he's going to be acting weird and not call out names. But why didn't Nicholas Atkinson or Nicole Atkinson call out for Shanann? Shanann, Bella, Celeste, are you guys okay? And Nicholas Atkinson is looking under the couch cushions for what? Are the girls and Shanann going to be under the couch cushions? Oh, that's right, because he claimed that if that's where he figured that he should start looking for evidence was under pillow cushions on the couch. That's just where he felt that he should look. And there's Shanann's phone. That's kind of stuff that it's like, that's weird. Like, you're not looking under, like, what evidence would you think, why would you even think that her cell phone or a piece of evidence that would be significant would be under the couch cushions upstairs? Because we know that Shanann and the girls aren't underneath the pillow cushions of the couch. And I know, and maybe we won't make it through all of these red flags because I'm getting off track, but these things are, I just think of it as I go because they're important. So the fact that nobody yells out their names and there's no sense of urgency, and we don't, and the problem with the body cam footage to you guys is there's only one person wearing the body cam footage. So once, Officer Coonrod, when he's walking around the house and he leaves, we don't know what's going on with the other 3 individuals in the house. Or 3.5, because Madison was there. Nicole Atkinson's daughter. So what's going on with these 3 individuals when they're off camera? That's like the whole thing where the whole discrepancy. Was it in the office? Was it on the kitchen table? Why wasn't it there? Why wasn't, the discrepancies with Nicole Atkinson in her interview about the purse? And when they found the phone, why didn't Nicholas Atkinson say, "Mom, come here, hurry, we found Shanann's phone." Like, super important. And then why didn't they do that and Nicole Atkinson run upstairs? Instead, Nicole Atkinson comes up like a minute later after Coonrod gets up there, and Chris goes, "Oh, we found her phone." And Nicole Atkinson's like, "You found her phone?" But there's like no sense of, it just seems very scripted to me and very staged. And again, I know that people react differently and, with death or stressful situations, but as humans, to me, that's not normal reaction when someone's in danger. Gypsy Mom, yes, I do have the same name. Yeah, it's Think for Yourself. Okay, so another thing that's strange, besides, the lack of urgency, and we don't even know, did they like check all the rooms? We don't know because we only have that one body cam footage, or that camera on Coonrod. So anything could be happening when he's not around. You know what I mean? And that's where I think it's kind of really tricky when it comes to that. Very, very tricky. There's also, in my opinion, a weird when Coonrod is down in the basement looking around, just walking around, no sense of urgency at all. It's crazy to me. But he kind of just does like a scan of the basement, and then as he's walking up the stairs, you see Nicole Atkinson at the top of the stairs, talking to Sandy, Shanann's mom. And then, to me personally, the minute she sees Coonrod coming up the stairs, she kind of like real quick starts to walk away and goes, "What?" Like someone had called her, but I don't ever hear anybody calling her. Maybe they did, but it just seemed really weird that the minute she sees Coonrod, it's almost like, "Oh shit," and then like walks away real quick. Instead of, "Did you find her down there? Was Shanann and the girls down there? Are they okay? Did you see anything weird? Is there anything missing? Is there anything odd down there, Officer Coonrod?" But we don't get that from anybody. Nobody's asking questions. Like Nicole Atkinson asked Chris a couple questions, like, did you check the pool? I don't know, Nicole Atkinson, did you check the pool? And I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying she admitted she was there for like 3.5 hours. Why didn't she think to send her son down to the pool to check? And no one's really asking relevant questions if they're that as worried as they say they are about Shanann and the girls. There's another situation on the body cam footage that I was mentioning earlier. Coonrod first checks one of the girls' room and then checks the other girl's room. And as he's coming out, you see Chris and Nicholas standing by the master bedroom. And as soon as they see Coonrod, they like scatter like cockroaches, you know? Like, what were you guys talking about right there? It doesn't seem like it was whatever they were saying was very low. We couldn't hear it. It wasn't like conversation to me personally that you would have when you're trying to discuss finding these people who are missing. Like, nobody says, Chris, did you and Shanann get in a fight? What happened? Where would Shanann go? Did you call everybody? You know, yes, did Nicole Atkinson ask some of those questions, but there was no urgency again to him. I don't know what other word to think of or to use, but there was no, it just didn't match for what we were being told, you know, as far as how these people were feeling or how they even said that they were feeling. What they said and how they were feeling, when they described how they were feeling, like in their interviews and stuff, it didn't match their actions, is what I'm trying to say. Then you also have Madison, Nicole Atkinson, and it boggles my mind that this even happened, but who's just wandering around this house. No one's paying attention to her. Nobody did an accurate job. I don't even know, because we don't see it on the body cam footage. Did Coonrod even go into that book room? To the girls' playroom? I don't remember. I don't think he did. Did anyone go in that other bathroom besides Nicholas and then like walk in there, turn on the light, and then turn around? Like, but this little girl is just walking around the house. And again, we don't know how long she was up there for, because when she wasn't around Officer Coonrod, we don't have that body cam footage. So what if she rushed up the stairs first, because she knows that that's the little girl's play, you know, Bella and Cece's playroom. God forbid, what if they were in there and something had happened to them, and this little girl finds Shanann, Bella, and Cece either injured or deceased first before anybody else? She would have been traumatized. Like, when police officers or law enforcement show up for these welfare checks, they have no idea what they're walking into. So you have to take all the proper I can't use that word. You have to do all the right things, because again, you don't know what you're walking into. There could be anything, and they don't know the danger. So when you show up for this welfare check, just because like all the doors are locked from, you know, around the entire house, and there's no broken window, or it doesn't look like that there was a break-in, it doesn't matter, because you don't know the scenario. Anything could have happened. Shanann could have opened the door for someone that she knew. How many times have we heard someone hurt someone or murder someone that they had trusted? So what if it was someone that Shanann knew, or maybe Shanann just opened the door because someone knocked and they rushed her pushed her inside the house, shut the door behind them, put the latch on the door, and was, holding her captive inside. So just because the house is secure, it's still, law enforcement still doesn't know what they're walking into. So they have to expect all possibilities. So why would Officer Coonrod let Chris just walk into the house, not knowing, having any idea what they're going to be walking into when they walk into that house? And it's one thing to let Chris to go in there, but then to let 2 other people in there and a small child in there, putting their lives in danger, not knowing what they're walking into. And I don't watch a lot of television shows, but there is one show that I watch. It's called Murder Tapes. And I still don't even believe everything on that, because when you're watching on television, it's for show. So, a lot of times these reality shows or the crime murder shows are probably hyped up a little bit because, that's what brings in the views. But you don't have to be a police officer to just know that that's not, in my opinion, the right protocol to do. And you're certainly not going to just believe what a husband tells you, or just because it's her best friend that's super, super worried about her and called the police on her, called a welfare check on her. That doesn't make her innocent. I'm not saying that she's not innocent, but I'm just saying, you guys get what I'm saying, right? And usually the person to either find the body of a murdered victim or the one that called the 911 call, those are always the first ones to be considered a suspect, because they're the ones that found the body and the last ones to see him. And then you have, obviously the husband, and then so on and so forth. So why would Coonrod, just believe everything that Nicole is saying, or her son, or Chris? You're not a police officer. You weren't made a police officer to just believe people. There's certain, you're trained to do certain things because of certain situations. So the fact that Coonrod just let these 1, 2, 3.5 individuals into the house, not knowing what they're going to walk into, is crazy to me. But back to that show, if you guys aren't familiar with it, again, it's called Murder Tapes. There's been several things on that show that make perfect sense that they're doing in the show that they did not do in the Watts case. And I highly recommend you go watch that. And there's one that I watched last night that I'll tell you about real quick. And I feel like I'm Tech on his on his trivia night, because I think the first question took about 20 minutes. And I think I'm still on I'm on the second red flag, but it's okay, right? You guys aren't busy. I'm just kidding. But there's several of those episodes where it makes a lot of more sense and logical as far as police protocol goes. For instance, 99% of the people on there have their faces blurred out for their protection. Nobody's faces on this body cam footage that was released in the Watts case were blurred out. And especially if there's children involved, minors, they, as far as I know, should always have their faces blurred out for their protection because they're a minor. So why was this body cam footage released to millions of people, made public, with Madison's face not blurred out, or Nicholas Atkinson, because he was a minor at the time. He's not anymore, but at the time this event happened, he was. But then I'm watching this murder tape show, and all these people's faces are blurred out on this body cam. Even the timestamp is blurred out. They blur out the timestamp on the body cam as well as in the interrogation room. On this show, they also, when they don't know, they'll say, they said, we do not know what we're walking into. This woman that was missing, I think it was like the 3rd episode in the season. Her brother had called because he hadn't heard from her. He calls the welfare check. Police officer shows up. Front door's locked, but when he goes around to the back door, the sliding back door is unlocked and kind of sort of open. And he hears her dog's barking. Well, the neighbor, who was also this woman's friend that was missing, she attempts to walk into the house, and he says, ma'am, no, please come back from the house. And I don't want you going in there because I don't know what we're going to be walking into, like I just talked about. And she goes, but why? She goes, she's my friend. She's my best friend. I'm worried about her. Something like a perfect example of what Nicole Atkinson should have done, in my opinion, or any of the people there. Like, she didn't wait for the cop to give her permission or anybody else. She started to walk in because she was worried about her friend. But the cop said, no, please, ma'am, back up. And she kind of got snippy again. She said, why? Well, it's for your protection. I don't know what we're going to be walking into. And it's also, and I'm going to call for backup because that's for my protection. So the police officer calls for backup, and I tried to play this on a live stream, but it got a copyright strike or whatever, or warning or whatever it's called. But so he tells the friend, no, please go back to the front of the house. Let me, I'm going to call my backup, I'm going to call for backup, and then we'll check things out. But it could be dangerous in there. I don't know what's going on. It's for your protection. Okay. So when I see stuff like that, that to me makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Even though I know I'm watching a TV show, and I know that I frown upon TV shows, and I don't recommend watching TV. I recommend turning your TV off. But when I see stuff like that, to me that sounds more logical than having all of this personal information of parties involved released, phone numbers, addresses, where they work, who their friends are, just everything. And then I see on the television here that faces are being blurred out, timestamps are being blurred out. And we know that there's been several documentaries on the Watts case. Did they ever blur any of their faces out? No. Do you know why? Because when you're dealing with something that is fabricated or orchestrated, or they're not their real identities, there's no protection to be, there's nothing to protect. There's no reason to protect these people by blurring out their faces or the timestamps. Because there's no danger to protect them from. Do you see what I'm saying? Also, something that they did in that same episode, the police officers going into the house wore gloves. Once they had a sense that there might be danger involved, or that it could possibly be a crime scene, even though this woman was still missing, they have to take all the proper precautions. There we go, precautions. that and assume that it could possibly end up a crime scene. And be careful not to taint evidence by letting all these people in the house walk all around, touch pillows, touch light switches, let news crew people in the house, let friends in the house, in and out, up, down the stairs. Because again, just because someone's missing, it could potentially be a crime scene. But in the Watts case, they didn't do any of that. And it does boggle my mind sometimes that when in these events like this, where they don't even go by protocol, because it's almost like they don't have to, because people will just believe it. And they won't ask these questions. Like, yeah, I've seen people in the true crime community ask why they weren't wearing gloves. But for the most part, people that aren't in the true crime community, or they're not going to break down the discovery, and they're just going to see this body cam footage, once, they're just going to believe it. Because they're seeing it on the body cam footage. So it must be real, right? Some of the police officers in the Watts case didn't even wear gloves until like 2-3 days later. Well, what's the point now? Because everybody just went in the house and walked all over the place and touched doorknobs, and Madison's touching all over the books, and it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's not real life, you guys. For instance, when Coonrod goes into Nate's house to watch his security footage, above the fireplace is a picture of what we assume is either Nate's son or nephew or something, but you can see a picture of like a baby, right, in a picture frame above the fireplace, not blurred out. You go watch these reality crime murder tape shows, the one that I just watched last night, all the picture, there was a ton of pictures on the wall of family members. And they were all blurred out for their protection. But none of the pictures in the Watts home, none of the pictures in the neighbors' homes were blurred out. None of the faces of the neighbors or even the neighbors' children's faces were blurred out. Why? Because it's a show. The episode I watched last night, it was practically, and I was like, what? When I started, like, immediately started, and uh-oh, they're on to me. I'm just kidding. No, I do get like Blackhawks that fly over sometimes, but it's cool because I know like they have a specific sound. That one wasn't a Blackhawk, but they have a really cool sound to their whatever helicopter noise that they make. And I'll usually like run out of my house when I hear it because I don't know, they're cool. But the episode that I watched last night, in the first like 2 minutes, it says how this woman, they called a welfare check because her family was worried about her. Hey, Brandy Lynn. They were worried about her. Her phone, tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. Her phone, her purse, her vehicle, her wallet were all left in the house still, but no sign of the mother, right? Same pretty much scenario as Shanann. Shoes are by the front door, purse, car seats, vehicle, money, medicine, all in the house, right? And I'm like, whoa, like, why am I having like deja vu here? This is weird, okay? Except the only difference was her twin boys, they were like, I think they're a little bit older, like maybe like 8 or 9, but they were in the house. So what had happened was they had woke up for school, they went to bed, They had gone to bed and woke up for school the next morning, like at 6:30 in the morning, and to find that their mother wasn't there. And that's why they called in the welfare check, even though she was just there the night before because she put him to bed. So after they, tell that whole scenario, the cops go inside the house and they explain how they grabbed the woman's toothbrush and her hairbrush that was missing in case they were potentially dealing with a homicide for DNA. Now, I don't know if they do that all the time, but it would make sense, right? They didn't do that. They didn't do that in the Watts case. They didn't grab anything right away to preserve evidence. They didn't take any evidence until like 2 days later when they just had giant black trash bags full of and just putting sheets and they didn't, save anything in particular about of Shanann's or anything like that. So do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the difference? It's like night and day compared to these, other homicide cases that were not mainstream, by the way, compared to the Watts case. So now that I totally got off track there, but again, I just bring things up when it's super, super important because it's stuff like that where it just doesn't make sense. It's not realistic. Oh, well, my chat is like tripping out right now on Restream. It was like, you guys didn't hear a word I just said, did you? Yeah, I didn't think so. My mic was muted. So I don't know what the last thing you heard was, but what I just said was, yeah, I was muted, Google. Thank you guys. I said if anybody has any questions on that, let me know. But usually nobody does, or it takes too long for someone to ask questions. But maybe I just explain things so well and you guys don't have any questions. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. That sounds good. Yeah, right. No questions here. All right. Alrighty then, moving on. Okay, so now that we're on what, 3? Sorry, guys. Okay, so in these orchestrated, and I know I'm missing something, but the whole point of me telling you about that show is just for the fact that how, again, it's just so night and day. It's completely different, and even though it is a show, it makes more sense compared to everything that was done in the Watts case, where it's complete opposite. Okay, so the killer didn't fit the profile, or Patsy, or whatever his title is, or their title. So I will usually, for the most part, compare the Watts case to that October 1 event, simply because it literally, even though they're two totally different events or cases, they have all of these same characteristics that you guys are looking at on the screen. And because I did, like, I followed other events like these, or the orchestrated ones, but I like really followed the event prior to the Watts case. That was the one that I had, researched and delved into the most before doing the Watts case. And you can, and go to the internet, and because I don't like to say GOOGLE unless it's Google on DLive, because he's cool. But Google that, please. Go to your search engine that you use, that you prefer, and put in either PSYOP characteristics or FF events, and you'll see these listed, like, just in the images results and websites. So there still is information about what I'm telling you guys, but a lot of the actual videos made about it on social media have been scrubbed. But there are some websites that actually go over the anatomy of these things, which I did, and that's the video that I got a strike for hate speech, just for simply going over the anatomy and talking about it from another website that someone else wrote that I didn't even write, So do that, because I want you guys to know that it's not just me that is sick. I'm not just making these up. I'm not just pulling them out of my ass. Like, other people are talking about these. Maybe not so much in true crime, because again, I didn't even know, as I said earlier, that they even existed in true crime. Okay, sorry about that. I know I was muted. But yeah, there's I'll leave a link. I did put the links that I said I would in the description in my last live, like with Ole Damagard and what's the other one? Oh, I think it was a link to one of my videos. I don't remember, but I did put them in the description like I said I would. And I did remember. But I will put the link to the website that goes into detail about the anatomy of these. Because I've already tried to, talk about it on my live stream and go over it with you guys so that you guys don't have to take the time out of your lives to go and search for this information, because that's what you guys come to me for, right? Because, a lot of people, you guys are busy, you have jobs. Last thing you want to do is go, and research, even though you should take the time to do it, do your own research. Hi, Mark. Sometimes people just don't have the time to do it. And so that's why I try to provide links and sources and, to save you guys time, but also to back up what I'm saying. But, I'll put the link in, go check out that website. Even though that they talk about these other bigger events and not homicide, they still have the same characteristics. So just keep that in mind. Hey, Greg, thanks for following. You guys can hear me, right? Because Brandy Lynn says, is Megan talking? Yes, Jenny May says Russian vids is good. And Russian vids talks about a lot of the symbolism that I do, and he calls them Easter eggs, I call them breadcrumbs, that they leave, the codes, the numerology, that are, a lot of it is right in front of our faces, plain sight. And some of them are not so obvious. Sometimes, you really have to look, but for the most part, they're right in our faces because they're telling us that they're doing it and what they're going to do. And I went over, actually, I did a stream yesterday on DLive, and I played a little bit of Russian Vid's video that he just came out with, like about, a few days ago, a week ago, that he actually goes over the whole Lee thing. If you guys are familiar with my video that I did on the Lee name and all the Lees in this case, the variations of the name, what the name means, the fact that it's one of the Illuminati bloodline names, several different meanings behind it. And when I saw that, because he was talking about an event that just happened, like a pretty big event. So when I saw that he was mentioning, the name Lee and Ash Lee, Ash Lai, I was like, whoa, yeah. So they're just using it again in another one, and then another one. They're just going to keep doing that. So, like, when I was watching that video, I knew exactly what he was talking about because of the Watts case. But I can't show that kind of stuff. I mean, he can, but he's also had, I think Jenny May said, I can't remember what she said, but he's had his channel taken down a few times for, exposing this kind of stuff, like the numerology and the codes that they use. And I just don't want to risk getting my YouTube channel taken down because although I, am still small, it took me a long time to get to where I am, or the amount of viewers that I do have. So that's why I encourage you guys to go over to DLive, because even though they're starting to censor over there, I can, for now anyways, still for the most part, talk more freely over there and discuss and show you guys and comparisons and show you that it is happening in other events and not just this one. And that's essentially my evidence to you guys. That's my proof, because the proof is in the patterns. They've been doing it for a while and they're doing it now and they're going to keep doing it. So again, if you know what you're looking for, unless they change it up, which again, I don't think they will as long as it's working for them, they're going to be fairly easy or very easy to spot. I promise you. If you just stick around long enough and listen to what I'm trying to say anyways. So many things that don't add up are they're going to make a lot more sense to you. And if they don't, I would be very surprised. So when I'm watching his video, and again, and he's talking about the Lee names and the meaning behind it and how it means that it's a lie. Because another variation for the word or for the name Lee is spelled L-I-E, which in the English, language is lie. So in these events, they're literally telling us that we're either being fooled, we're being lied, and they're mocking us. And so many people are falling for it. Even though they're putting it right in our faces. Because if you're not looking for it, or if you're not aware of it, I mean, you wouldn't notice that. You wouldn't notice those kind of things, which makes sense. Because for the people that are not aware of these characteristics and these red flags and what these people are doing, to them, it's just going to be another Lee name. Because granted, Lee is a common name. I get that. But that's not on purpose, in my opinion, so that they can still get away with their clever little codes, so that people in the know can go, oh yeah, that's their work. That's okay. Yeah, that's our guys. And then do their little karma thing, so that if they let us know what they're doing ahead of time, they're not going to have any bad karma on their hands. So to the average Joe, a lion tattoo or Shanann going to the Thirsty Lion is going to have no significance to the average person that doesn't know about what's going on. And I didn't know about all this stuff until I started watching other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing, and people like Ole Damagard and other truther channels. Videos after videos, and notice that other people are saying the same thing and thinking logically and going, they make a good point. Why doesn't this add up? What is with all this symbolism? Whether you believe in numerology or gematria or whatever, yeah, do common numbers, pop up a lot? Certainly they do. Have so many of the same numbers specifically encased in like one event, they don't pop up that often. Especially when you know that it's orchestrated, or you know that there's something nefarious behind it. Then you can go, oh, okay, yeah. So that's why these numbers are popping up so much. That makes sense. Or that's why there's this occult symbolism going on. Or that's why there's so many people with the same names. And then you do a simple search for the name Lee and you find all this information about, and then you say, holy shit, that makes sense. Well, that makes even more sense. Oh, Lee is the 13th Illuminati bloodline, one of the 13 Illuminati bloodlines, So you don't have to search that far And sometimes you don't have to search at all for these clues that they give us because they're right literally in our faces and they're mocking us. And that's what pisses me off the most about it. Well, not the most, but one of the things that pisses me off about it is not only are they doing these and not only are they fooling millions of people with these events and hurting people. It's one thing to do that, but then to literally mock us by throwing it right in our faces and saying, "Ha ha, what are you going to do about it?" That's what pisses me off. So on my stream yesterday, I played a little bit of his video and then I compared it to what I talk about in the Watts case. And so that's why, I encourage, and I know it sucks to go over to a different platform when you're used to one and people aren't even getting notifications from my DLive. So I don't know what to do about that. But the fact that they have censored so much on YouTube, it makes it very difficult for me to provide evidence for you guys, because if I do, I'm at risk of getting my channel taken down. And they know that. And that's why they do that. That's why they put it in the guidelines that I'm not, that myself and other people are not allowed to speak about these tragic events or question them or the inconsistencies in them. Because if I do, it's in their guide. That means it's a no-no and I'll get a strike or jeopardize my channel getting taken down. That's why they're in the guidelines. Because they know that people don't want to risk losing their channels that they worked so hard to build, or for ones that are monetized and make an income off of it. They're not going to want to lose their income, so they're going to, follow the rules, essentially. That's why they put them in the guidelines. And it's funny that, my theory specifically, or anyone else that, again, questions these tragic events and the inconsistencies, that one is specifically in the guidelines, the community guidelines. Why is that? Why so specific about it? And to me, that's way telling in itself. If you ever question, my theory or what I'm saying, because it's in there for a reason, and they don't want people talking about it for a reason. And yeah, D4, I do want to cover the Nova Scotia thing because that's another one of those events that I'm talking about. And I haven't even had to do that much research on it. I've already seen, just from what I've been told and a couple of videos that I've watched, and what happened immediately after the fact of that event is already throwing out major red flags. But that's going to be like really hard to talk about on YouTube, because you're dealing with one of those target practice events that you're not allowed to talk about or question. I think that's why I haven't really covered anything else, because they just make it so freaking difficult and it's annoying. Any questions on that? We might have to finish the rest of the red flags here. I'll have you guys write these down and you guys can study them. No, but I didn't mean to stay on the first three or first two that long. no questions. Okay. I explained it that well again, huh? Okay, no questions? Okay. So, not always for this next one, this next red flag, but not always does this happen. But for, the most part, the perpetrator, killer, patsy, like I said, what I was beginning to say earlier, will not fit the profile of the crimes that they committed. So, they won't have any political affiliation, or they will not show any signs of, violent tendencies in their past. All their family members, friends, coworkers that are interviewed will have nothing but great things to say about this person who just committed this horrendous act, right? Like nobody. They don't even have an enemy that comes out and later and says, "Oh yeah, I definitely saw the signs there. They were definitely, it was bound to happen." No, you won't see that. So in the next, mainstream homicide case or any tragic event that gets this widespread media attention and spreads like wildfire, and if there's holes in the narrative or things don't look right or they don't add up or you just get that feeling that something's not right, don't ignore it. But look out for this next characteristic. So if they're telling us, if the mainstream media or law enforcement or the government or whoever is saying this person is a cold-blooded killer and he, annihilated his entire family, just woke up one day and just decided to do it, even though everyone that's interviewed and everyone that, on these, HLN interviews or whoever say, "Oh, Johnny so and so, he was just the nicest, sweetest boy in the world, and he would never hurt a fly," like they said about Chris. Where's Tech? I need his old lady voice. Hello? Can't do it. But yeah, he would never hurt a soul. I don't know why I just went southern there. You guys get my drift? Like, so for instance, back to the event prior to the Watts case on October 1st, everyone that was interviewed that came out and talked about this man had nothing but good things to say about him. Kept to himself, retired, no political affiliations, nice boyfriend, hardworking. He had businesses in the past, just likes to do his hobby on the side. Again, retired, kept to himself, just nothing bad to say about him, right? But yet he just committed this horrendous act and allegedly took the lives of many, many innocent people. Okay? So with Chris Watts, same exact thing. Everybody that knew the guy, nothing bad to say about him. Never raised his voice, never got in a fight, at parties with Shanann or anything, or argued, and great employee and always showed up to work on time and was always a great father. Not a single thing. And that's why everyone's like, Nobody had anything bad to say about him. He didn't show any violent tendencies in his past. He never got angry. How could someone like Chris Watts, who's no one has a bad thing to say about this guy, how can someone like Chris Watts just wake up one day, or just because he's seeing this woman, or having an affair for 2 months, can just annihilate his entire family? And again, the same thing with the other event. In my opinion, they want people to think that it's, that people are capable of doing this, not just terrorists, not just criminals, not just sick people with, mental illnesses. They want us to be in fear all the time. They want you to think that if someone like Chris Watts can wake up one day and murder his entire family, then what's stopping your significant other or your husband from doing the exact same thing to you? So let's say your husband or significant other, great father, great employee, great husband, great friend, you name it, just all around great guy. They want you to think that that doesn't matter, that he could literally wake up one day and just murder you for no reason. That's what they want people to think. They want people to be in fear. They don't want people to trust anyone, not even the people closest to them. They want people to just trust the government and law enforcement. They want people to always be in fear. And yes, do murders happen? Do husbands kill their wives? Do husbands kill their children? Do women kill their husbands? Do women kill their children? Yes, but not like this. Not this scenario. Somebody doesn't just, up and murder their entire family and not have a reason or not have a motive. And a lot of times you'll see that too. They law enforcement can't ever give a clear motive, just like with the October 1 event, just like with Chris Watts. They never gave us a clear motive. They gave us, possibly maybe the bankruptcy, maybe it was money, maybe he didn't want to or couldn't afford because they were already bankrupt. So they give those little things so that it does make it a little bit more believable that he might have some sort of motive for up and annihilating his entire family, but they don't ever give us a clear, exact motive for why these people do these things, specifically in these events. Sheriff in the last case never gave a motive, or the FBI. Either did Rourke, the DA. And then they do that bankruptcy thing and the money and not wanting to have another kid because it was too expensive, and the whole, the videos where it shows Shanann like, Chris, you hold this, you make your own Thrive shake, like where she's, or the Christmas video, because remember, they only show us what they want us to see and what's going to push their narrative. So these videos that Shanann put out, and the videos showing her being snarky to Chris, or not wanting him to be on camera, or being embarrassed of him, or the, condescending when he forgot his phone when he was dressed up as Santa, which was one of the weirdest videos I've ever seen. It was very uncomfortable for me to watch, by the way. But when she's walking into the garage and she's like, "Oh, Santa forgot his phone. He can't do anything right." They show us that on purpose because they're giving us, they want us to believe that there was some sort of reason as to why Chris did this, even though it seems unbelievable, because it pretty much is. I know that might sound crazy, and it's like, well, but that was just her videos. That was just Shanann. But if you think about it in a the psychological aspect of it, it makes sense. You know, they only show us, again, what they want us to see. So they made sure that the narrative states that they had a bankruptcy, they filed for bankruptcy, and then they bought this huge expensive house that they probably couldn't afford based on their income. And they only had $1,000 in his bank account. And she was whatever with her paying the mortgage payments with a check and saying, oh, I must have sent it to the wrong address. And so that's why they were 3 months behind on their mortgage. They made sure that we knew about that. They made sure that they had to let us know that they had all these medical bills from Shanann's neck surgery and from the girls going in and out of the hospital. Just enough to, to make people say, oh, that could have been a reason for his motive. This could have been a reason. Maybe all of them were a reason. But they never truly give us like a specific motive for why these people who showed no signs prior to doing this horrific act did what they did. Because if they didn't give us all that bankruptcy and the money issues and the mistress, it wouldn't be believable. Do you see what I'm saying? It would definitely not be believable at all. And even with that, it still doesn't seem believable. And then you have Shanann's videos where she's like, the one specifically where she says, where she's talking about how her and Chris met, and how she, kept blowing him off, and then fast forward through the video, he's the best husband a woman could ask for, or a wife could ask for. He's great. He's amazing. He's an outstanding father. I couldn't ask for anything better, right? Just praising this man. And how he took me to my colonoscopy. Not me, Shanann. And even when I wasn't feeling well, and his legs were cramping up when I was laying my head on his lap, he sat there for hours, even though, he got a cramp in his leg, stuff like that. So they build up this whole thing. So then you just feel like just heartbroken for Shanann, right? But that's the whole psychological aspect of it that I'm trying to make you guys like see. And that's why they made her Facebook profile public, so that people would watch these videos and see Shanann talk about how amazing Chris is. And then they watch it and then they just loathe Chris and just hate him, knowing that he just murdered Shanann and the girls. What a monster he is. Look at how Shanann, she was so great. And look how great she talks about Chris. And that's where you just get all that emotion built up in people. So when I tell you that the people that are orchestrating these things, they're master manipulators, and they know what they're doing. They know what irks people. They know what's going to pull at heartstrings, get people's emotions going, what's going to make people angry, what's going to make them sad. They know what triggers people. And they probably are taking notes as like a social experiment with every single one of these events. Take notes and say, okay, this is what's triggering people. This is what's not. This is what gets people angry. This is gets people divided. So that for their next one that they plan, that one might even be even better. Because they're seeing our interactions on social media and how people are reacting to this event. So I can imagine they could only get stronger and better. So again, that's why they made Shanann's Facebook profile public. And when I saw that video of her just raving about Chris, and how wonderful he is, and just like almost like over the top, in my opinion. Sorry, but it was almost like bleh, you know, like too much. I mean, yes, it was sweet and everything like that, but it was just like, okay, you know. But in my opinion, it was done like that on purpose. Okay, so in these next events, if you see this narrative, and then all these people that know him say, "Oh, I don't have anything bad to say about the guy," there's a red flag, and that's when you again need to start paying more attention to that event. I'm not saying that every single one of these mainstream cases or events are all the same, but I'm starting to think they might be, because you have to wonder why some cases and some events get more attention and are pushed by the media more than others. Now, there's going to be some that are going to be the same as the Watts case, but depending on how it was put together, some cases might not get as much attention as other cases. It just so happens that the Watts case was really good and just happened to just draw in a lot of people. People can't get over it. They can't get away from it. And it's like one of the best PSYOPs I've seen in a long time. That I don't even know about have been. But I think with the way they released all the body cam footage, the discovery, the 911 call, you know, Shanann's Facebook, you know, okay, this really bothers me. They still have Chris's YouTube channel up, right? There's people that aren't even in prison on YouTube that are channel creators that can't even keep their channel up because YouTube takes it down. But yet YouTube still has a profile or a channel of a alleged convicted murderer, family annihilator on their platform. Please tell me how that makes sense. Why would YouTube want to keep someone who's convicted of murdering his entire family? Why would they keep his profile or his channel up on their platform? What is the point of that? Why would you want to be associated that? Why would you want to be known for keeping this guy's, you know, YouTube channel up? Surely they have to know about it. You know, eye in the sky, they know everything. Unless you leave it there on purpose because you want people to go and search this guy's name because everyone's interested in him. So they search Chris Watts in YouTube, bring up his channel. There's only 2 things on it, 2 videos, but what's one of those videos? It's the video of him doing his presentation for school for a communication class. And what does he say? You know, in that presentation, he practically says everything that happened in the Watts narrative. How, you know, a married couple, for instance, he brings up how, you know, 2 people in a marriage can end up falling out of love, and how they might have a child to fix the marriage, even though they know that that's probably not the best thing because they think they're doing it for the kids or whatever. Which we know that Shanann and Chris, based on the official narrative, started falling out of love with each other and were arguing, and they, essentially had a kid to maybe save a marriage. And then he talks about that maybe someone might meet someone at work and they might start talking and they might like what the other person and not their significant other says to them, and shows them more attention than whatever. You see what I'm saying? See where I'm going with this? So, and Chris, we know that Chris met Kessinger at work, and here Chris is in his, I don't know what year that came out, but that's something that is called like foreshadowing. So Chris essentially told us, and you could also fall into like the predictive programming thing. Oh, and I just said that. Shit. Can someone bleep that out real quick? Dang it. Dang it. So people are going to go watch that, and psychologically, subliminally, they told us pretty much what happened in the Watts case in his communication, right? Speech or presentation. I mean, he essentially told us the entire narrative of the Watts case. So to me, it makes sense that YT would keep up a convicted murderer's channel on their platform because they want people to see it. They want people to go to his channel, watch that video, fuck with their heads. That's the only reason I can think of, because I wouldn't. Why would I'm not gonna? No, you just murdered your family. Why in the hell would I keep your channel up, idiot? But no. YT takes all these other channels down. But no, we're going to leave up a convicted murderer that just murdered his entire family for no reason, who's in prison, who can't even access his freaking YouTube channel. So it's stuff like that people really need to question and go, why would they leave his channel up? And why is his presentation that it happened years before everything else happened practically mirror the whole scenario? That's what I'm trying to get people to see, stuff like that. Yeah, and I'm Brandy Lynn, I'm suspicious about that case too, the Casey Anthony one. All the mainstream media ones, to be honest with you, high profile ones. I know I'm not like saying everything's a conspiracy and everything is orchestrated. That's not what I'm saying. But after knowing about this case and that they're doing it in this genre, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word. Like there was a couple that I was suspicious of, OJ, and because a lot of these they're for distraction too. Multiple motives behind them, but they're to distract, to push an agenda or agendas, social experiment, whatever. And they're all going to have different agendas catered to that specific event. But someone is always going to profit financially, which is the next one down. Red flag. Hey, Shan. Of agendas. Oh, it's the fat pony. Thanks for the ice cream, Shan. Oh, sliding into it. I'm sorry. What's your question? Can you repeat it, please? I'm sorry. It's hard for me to pay attention to the chat when I'm bad. Okay, so moving on. So I don't want to stay on that too long. But again, whenever I just think of something, I want to bring it up, especially with that, because I've been meaning to bring that up for a while now, and I just kept forgetting. And if somebody out there who wants to argue with me about that can give me a reason as to why they think that, and I don't want to hear that they forgot or they don't know that his channel is still up, because that's BS. But if someone can tell me why YT would keep up a convicted murderer's channel 2 years going on now, then please let me know, because as far as I know, no one else has been able to tell me that.